Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, the digital world is crowd and loud, and you need somebody like the Oak City Tech professionals to help you get through this so you can get your correct message to the correct people so you can grow your business. Go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a small business success story. If you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. And each week, about 33 chapters and almost 550 members get together. And our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our small business success story this week is Michele Castle with Prosperity Partner. Michele is also in RD27, Bull City Business Leaders. They meet Thursday mornings at 11:15 at Cafe Perizod when it's in person. Right now, it's still Zoom. Michele, glad to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Glad to be here. Thank you.
And Michele is also a consulting director like myself, which means we help other chapters and we love giving. And I know you enjoy that aha moment when you help a chapter or an individual. It's kind of nice, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm actually the founding consulting director of RD26. So that's good.
And you take all credit for
I
every
do.
bit of success they have, right?
Oh, indeed. Yeah. I, no, we've got a really good team but I do think the consulting director, when you're founding a group, I think there's a certain role that's unique. You really get to keep on casting the vision of what's possible and what we're up to and, not taking no for an answer. Like we're not tire kicking, we're not giving it a shot. We're like doing this. And I do think that makes a difference.
I agree. And our that group meets in Wake Forest on Thursday mornings?
Nope. It meets at Parazod whenever we have Parazod.
Oh, that's
Tuesdays.
right.
Yeah, it's Tuesdays. We're basically gonna
That's
duplicate the
I
success of
I
27.
yeah, and I keep wanting to connect you to that new Wake Forest chapter. That's what I thought
Yeah,
it was. Anyway,
yeah, I do work with, Toby on that one
okay,
some.
good. All right. I knew there's a connection to Toby
Yeah,
and Wake
yeah.
Forest, didn't know how. All right, so let me unpack everything you do. All right, so help me with this. So here's what I got, and just tell me where I'm going right, going wrong. You are a certified holistic health coach.
I am.
All right. So you help people find a clear path to get what they want physically, emotionally, spiritually, interpersonally, and financially.
That's true.
How did that come about?
Well, I love that question. What I always say to people, I don't go to broke financial planners or overweight personal trainers. And I think that, seeking out mentors has been one of my key to successes in life. And so when I got to say, those things that I can help people with, they are things that I have conquered in my own life. I mean, it's always a journey. It's not like you ever arrive at a destination, but I definitely went in each one of those areas from being pretty darn miserable and feeling like really out of control. Things were just happening to me and I didn't really know, how I could make it different. And so I really dug into a lot of personal development. I went to divinity school, studied theology to get my spiritual questions at least validated so I didn't feel crazy. And I spent thousands of hours on personal development, lots of mentorship, read, thousands of books. And so I love to share with people from my own experience as well as listening to their experience and helping them make sense of things. I think one of the biggest things that I notice with people is that they don't know that they can choose to have things be different. Not to say you can do it overnight, but I think people underestimate what you can get done in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years,
A- And when you were looking at your personal situation, which one of those did you address first and why?
Great question. For me, it was the spiritual because my mom was a nun, just like, I'm just the average Chinese Jamaican daughter of a nun, Pentecostal minister kind of a gal. So spirituality was really important in the household that I grew up in. And I think I was raised in like the best that the Catholic Church has to offer. It was a very warm, spiritual. We did a lot of community service, a lot of Bible study. prayer meetings and stuff like that. Not, great music, praise and worship, and just not your traditional Catholic upbringing. So, I had that, and then my parents got divorced my senior year of high school, and or they got separated then, and a lot of what they said was going on was around spirituality. And then my dad went off and became a Pentecostal minister, and so it was just, and he would say things about the Catholic Church, and I would be like, I don't know, and he'd quote the Bible, and then my mom would say that was nonsense, and there was just a lot going on, and I couldn't, and to me, it's like, are we sinners in the hands of an angry God? I mean, are we, is everything predestined? I mean, does the church even matter? Like, how do you read the Bible? It says some crazy things about stoning disobedient children and stuff like that. I mean, how do you do that? And so for me, it was very pressing. So I kind of wanted to get to the bottom of that first.
And when people come to you for help, is it usually one specific area and then you end up addressing more than just that one?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Is I learned from one of my mentors that the space between what you're offering and what people are looking for is called work. So whenever people, whatever they're doing, a lot of times people have health issues, like that weight. Even though it's not the most exciting thing, I definitely have helped hundreds and hundreds of people get to their ideal weight. I've trained thousands of people on how to train people on how to get to their ideal weight. So I'm very familiar with it. For myself, that was why I originally got involved with the company that I was with. I still am for 15 years. It was about weight loss. A lady I met in Dallas, Texas in January 2005. And she was just looking so radiant, and her skin was clear, and she was smiling. And I was just like, what the heck is that woman on? And I was like, in this room of exhausted, overwhelmed, pudgy people, there's this beaming, radiant woman. And I just went up to her and I was like, oh my gosh, what's your deal? Why are you smiling? And then she told me about what she was doing. And then she said, oh, and, I dropped, 7 pounds and 11 inches in 9 days. And I was like, huh? What'd you say? So even though it's not the most exciting thing for me, weight loss is a big thing. I help people. That tends to be the gateway into it. But then there's like a whole emotional thing around eating, and you know, and also there's just this unconscious thing that people do. They don't even realize what they're doing or why they're doing it. Like, why are you eating ice cream at night before you go to bed? It makes you don't even feel good. You know, what are you doing? And then it tends to be like what we're doing with food tends to be how we're doing a lot of things in our lives. Like as a different mentor said to me, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So just we can look at the food, we can look at what you're doing with what you say you want, and then what you're actually doing to create the results you're getting in your life, and kind of break it down like that.
Last month, I turned the ripe young age of 60.
Mm,
And the last 6 or 8 months, my body has started talking to me a little bit on foods, and so I've been playing around with different foods to figure out, what they do, and obviously trying to get away from much of the junk food as I can.
mhm.
And what I've learned just kinda looking at how I ate and when I ate and what I ate was my biggest problem right now is just when I eat too fast, I get more issues than almost what I eat, and I would have never thought about that. And one day I was just yeah, I guess I was wolfing down to dinner, and my wife looked at me and went, "Really?" And that's what I found out, so I started looking at stuff that way, but just I was just shoveling everything down in about 8 seconds, and I
Why
know that is not
were you
healthy.
doing that? Do you know why you were doing that?
I don't know. I don't know if I've always done that. I guess I have, but, yeah, so I've tried, 2 bites, put the fork down, chew it real good and swallow, and it's made a difference. I feel much better when I finish eating a meal, and, so just little things like that, but I figured 60, I better start looking at some things so I can, the grandkid, live a lot longer, things like that, but, and then also in moderation, it's amazing when you don't eat past where you need to, how much better you feel.
Absolutely, and slowing down will help with that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Um, so, well, I just commend you on, paying attention to
mhm,
your body, because that's a big thing is people don't really listen to their heart. They don't really listen to their body. They don't really listen to other people. We tend to, our society has I think a cancer of busyness. Of
yeah,
course, that's all been blown up by COVID or whatever. But even then, it just people are, wanting this, if you say, I'm not actually overwhelmed. Like people ask me to do things. I'm like, oh, I'm sure you're super, super busy and you can't do this. I'm like, well, I mean, I can do whatever I want. I can't necessarily do it today, but I have control over my schedule,
Yes.
and if it's something that is aligned with what I want to do in the world, then, I could probably make it happen. Um, so, and then people are like, because they're just used to people being, oh my God, I'm so busy. I'm so overwhelmed. I just can't possibly take another thing on and whatever. And I'm like, what if it wasn't like that? What if you were just doing the things that you really wanted to do? Or at least if it's something that isn't like your favorite thing, you know why you're doing it. So it's in alignment with what you're doing. And
Yep.
so there's not that resistance and that disconnect, like where people are saying, oh, I have to do this.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
happening to me. I have to do this. It's like, do you have to like, what would happen if you didn't do that? Or like, if it's something that you really don't like to do, what if we just looked at your life and saw how maybe you could just not have to do that? Maybe you can delegate that. Maybe you can renegotiate your agreements around that. Maybe you can teach people to have different expectations of you. Um,
It-
like there's a one client, think I'm going to sign him tomorrow, but a veterinarian been working, 6 days a week for 25 years, every third weekend off or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, who would want to do that? But secondly, he doesn't want to do that. And I'm like, well, what if you just didn't have to do that? Like what, I don't know what that would look like, but what if you didn't? And so I think part of it is to help people. I mean, it kind of sounds cliche, but to help people dream again, like to help
yeah.
people act, think like if you could choose, what would you like to do? And that is such a big stretch because people have just kind of given away their power. They've given away authority. They're just, reacting, treading water. Treading water is a good image because many years ago, I guess it was about 16 years ago or something, I still had two jobs. I had two little kids and I had started a business and we were flipping the house we lived in. Okay. So this is a lot. Okay. And I remember I was just like, I was with my husband. I was at the time he passed away, but at the time, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. How did I get myself into this? This is not reasonable. I'm gonna lose my crap. And he was like, Michelle, you're not going for a swim. You're swimming across a river. Just keep swimming. And I was like, oh yeah, it's temporary. Like human beings are capable. If you just even look at brain chemistry or the way our bodies are about adrenaline and cortisol and all these things, that we're designed to be able to go with less sleep, do things, push through. We are designed to do that for a short period of time. We don't want to stay in that place. And so when I help people think about it differently, like, hey, first of all, this is a choice I'm making. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm creating this. I'm, on my way to the other side. And the other side, I only have to work one job, or I'm going to be able to hire an employee, or something. And for me, actually, it ties in with BNI because my first goal when I started my business was to be able to have a significant, the income that was every single week that I could pay a nanny who would do my laundry, clean my house on Thursdays so I could go to Full City BNI.
There you go. I like
And
that.
and I achieved it. Yeah.
But
And then I
that's
kept
called a plan, isn't it?
it is. And then I was like, okay, this is worth it. Why am I on the phone making calls to California at 11:30 at night? And that's because the time zones work like that. And that's when I can make phone calls. And it was worth it, because I got what I wanted.
We are here with Michele Castle, a prosperity partner. Michelle is also a member of RD27, Bull City Business Leaders. They're the big bad daddy of Triangle BNI. They're the biggest, have been the biggest for a long, long time. They bring in the most money, pass the most referrals. There's a reason why they're always that good. So if you're in the Durham area and want to meet some really, really focused individuals that are there helping each other, please check out their chapter. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. One of the things you need, folks, is social media help. We think it'll be a lot of fun posting every day and posting twice a day, but it can be a hassle and a grind on you. So you need professionals like the folks at Oak City Tech to help you. Please go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Michelle, in the small business world, we are always looking for balance in work and life. When we first start a business, we'll answer any phone call, we'll take any client because we have rent to pay. And then
Yeah,
kids come along, and then we realize, hey, what if I told all my customers that I'm not open on Saturday? I'm only
exactly.
open Monday through Friday, and that might solve some problems. I know with some small business owners, like, we have to be open all the time, and no, if you just teach people when you're open, they'll still come find you if they really wanna do business with you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, absolutely. Teaching people, and this goes in business, but also in life, teaching people how to treat us and how we want to be treated. I think setting up agreements around your workflow is really good too. Like some of the clients I've had, I did two 90-day contracts in a Fortune 500 company that was taking over a software company. And so I looked at their workflow of their top people and helped them kind of duplicate that because they couldn't really just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks anymore. They had to be all grown up and have systems and things. So I looked at, the people that were the most successful, and I helped them do things, just little things like they would have their email pop up on their desk like all the time. So they would just be shifting back and forth all the time. And I'm like, no, I mean, now there, and as I understood it in their work style, it was expected that they would respond very, in a timely manner to email. So what I had them do was, whenever they were setting their appointments or whatever, just give themselves at the top of the hour, 7 minutes to respond to emails that had come through during that hour. And leaving their voicemail to say, return your call by the end of business today or something like that. And then so, booking the time so they were done with the appointments at 4:30, so they would have 30 minutes to return calls, you know, um, and just kind of grouping things in their life. And then because transitions are, take up a lot of time. So if you can group things together, um, then you actually create more time to do other things. And that's a way you can really improve your productivity
Yeah,
is
and most emails aren't emergencies, even when the person send it that says, "Oh my god, I gotta have it right now." It generally doesn't mean right now, but a lot of us feel that, "Oh, I better return this," and that's not always the case, and email's such a huge waste of time, but you're right, it's the transition part that kills us.
absolutely. And the thing is too, Mike, it's like realtors. Okay. If you're gonna be a realtor and you're gonna sit here and say, well, I'm sorry, I only work this hour and that hour, whatever, good luck. Because realtors, it's somebody, they see it's very competitive. They see a house, they're right by there, they want someone to call them back. So, if you really don't want that kind of lifestyle, I would suggest, building a team, and also maybe not being a realtor because it's just like that. Like if you're gonna be an OB doctor, you're going to work nights because women have babies at nighttime. It just don't do that, if you don't want to do that. Um, but and in particular, there are different expectations of different fields. And so like for that company, they were working on so many projects in the company that they really needed to respond to each other in a timely manner because there was a project and they didn't want to move on until they got like a buy-in or whatever. So then it's good to know, okay, so then we're going to have a folder. Those are the ones you're going to return, like, you know maybe on the half hour, but the other stuff, and tell your clients, or it just says in the bottom of your email, thank you for, your email, and I will be responding, between appointments or something, so that they get a response. So it's all just in life, really. It's just teaching people how to treat us.
Yep, agreed. Do you remember your first client?
Well, my first client was me, for sure.
Alright, your, first paid client?
First paid client. That's a good. I remember an entrepreneur. She actually still does work with me sometimes. And I gave a talk, and she came up to me afterward and she said, "Oh, so you can help me lose my baby weight?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know you had a baby." She's like, "Oh, I don't. I've just had this weight since I was a baby." You know?
Ooh, I'm gonna use that one. I know I'm only 60, but I'm gonna use that one day.
Exactly. So I remember that. That was a memorable conversation. We went on to have a really good working relationship, and changed a lot of lives. She's very knowledgeable. She was a PhD in microbiology and immunology doing cancer research. And
Wow.
then it hit her that why are we sitting here looking at how to cure cancer? Because every day in the lab, we make cancer. When we want to have cancerous cells, we know how to give cells cancer. We do it all the time. And it just and she just couldn't. It's like one of those thoughts that it's like an earworm. Like she could not get that thought out of her head. And so she had so much integrity. She ended up leaving cancer research and going to massage school and becoming a massage therapist and working with people on holistic health. Um,
Wow.
yeah, because every single day, get to make it acidic, give them sugar, deprive them of oxygen, and voila, and
Mm.
micronutrients. Put some free radicals in there, and ta-da, you've got cancer. So it's like, why don't we just stop doing that to people?
Wow. I never heard of it that way.
Yeah, I know it blew me away. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have even known that at all unless she told me that.
Yeah. When did you know that this business, this prosperity partner, and this path was going to work out?
Well, um, what I do now with the coaching is much bigger than when I started out in my business. When I started out my business, I I joined a network marketing company, and I didn't I love to have fun, but I also am very analytical. So I did so much research on, the industry, that company, products, manufacturing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, all the stuff. Talked to so many different people that were doing it and everything like that. And I just got really informed about it. And so when I started with that company, I was completely committed because I had gotten all of my questions answered, and I knew that I was being mentored by people that had actually created results. They were not given some backdoor deal, an existing team, blah, 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 sign in, but like they just ground it out, and they were going to help me do that. And that was really valuable because I feel like in life, if you find someone that has what you want, and if you're willing to be coachable, and I'm not saying like some cult thing, like do whatever they say for the rest of your life. I'm just saying commit to 90 days, commit to 60 days, commit to something. Like a lot of people have opinions about everything. And I'm like, well, how about you just try it first? Then when you've mastered this, you can tweak it. Like with a recipe, I help people with cooking. I love to cook, and when you get a recipe, you don't just start off by changing around. You get the recipe, do it exactly how it is, and then oh, I want it to be a little lighter. I wonder what it would be like with nuts in it, something something. Then you mess with it. So I think being coachable, and that the important thing about that, of how you get to that relationship of trust, is that you look for someone that has created what you want.
So
And
what's your go-to meal?
oh, I drink my shakes a lot, but oh well, if I see, what am I known for?
Yes.
Is my curry chicken, my Jamaican curry chicken is
Ooh,
really outstanding. Yeah.
okay.
And I learned it from my grandmother, and it's so talking about how you think about stuff. Cause I remember, some people, they are very obsessive about the cleanliness of their house. I fortunately am not one of those people, but I understand there are people like that. No, I do actually keep a pretty clean house. But whenever I see, onion like casings and stuff, or like garlic casings like on the floor or something, or like maybe a couple grains of rice or something, I've just learned to be really grateful when I see that, because I think about how many kids don't have that. They just eat out of fast food they send out or something. Is somebody going to actually take the time to like chop garlic, cut up onions? Um, and it makes me also think of my grandmother, because my grandmother was always cooking in the house, and we always had that little bits of stuff on the floor, carrot tops or whatever. And then at nighttime, she would sweep them and eat her banana and have her milk of magnesia before she went to bed. But she would sweep up all the little bits. So I think of my grandmother when I do that. I did go to this training when I was working for the church, and this guy was so he said that the church is that your home is the domestic church, right? And he said the incense of the domestic church is garlic and onions. So he had everyone commit to A, not text while driving,
Good.
and B, at least once a week, cut up onions and garlic and put it in olive oil in the pan. And he didn't care what you did with it after that, but he wanted your kids to smell that. He
Yep.
wanted your spouse to come home and feel that, and just get that sense of like coziness and nourishing stuff. And I love that. I think moved away from that. People are trying to move towards that with the stuff that comes in a box that's already measured and stuff. I haven't done that, but it seems like a pretty good idea. I don't know how it works out in terms of cost and stuff, but I do think that people, they spend too much money on eating out. It's like it's going to make me sick, broke, and fat.
Yep.
Maybe I'm not going to do that like a whole bunch.
It should be a treat,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We do it once a week. We do
Yeah.
it once a week.
Yeah.
Me and my kids do it
And
once
then
a
it's
week.
special.
Yeah.
Then it's special. All right. So you are I love when we have firsts on the show, and you are the first person with Chinese and Jamaican heritage.
Indeed. I'm a little of this and that. It's true.
Now, two wonderfully creative, devout cultures. But tell me how good those parties were and the food and the family reunions and everything.
Well, it's interesting because Chinese people, they don't drink a lot. Generally speaking, they get very red in the face and kind of don't hold their alcohol well. But Jamaicans have a very good time. And so the Chinese, yeah. So food was always really important. Food, and I mean, I remember. So what happened is in 1976 there was a communist revolution in Jamaica. Michael Manley was elected democratically and then decided that he was going to just take after his friend Fidel and do what Fidel had done in Cuba. So and it became very, very violent. Like what was happening last summer in some of those cities, it was all over the country. Like there was nowhere to go that was safe. And my parents had two little girls, and they were like, we can't, this is not going to work. And so my dad's British, so we were able to come to the United States, and they bought a business here and basically started over. But most of my family, they couldn't come to America, so they emigrated to uh, Toronto. And I still have a lot of relatives in Toronto. There's actually a huge Chinese Jamaican community in Toronto, if you didn't know that.
All right,
Um,
hang on a sec then. I got the Chinese and the Jamaican, and now your dad's British?
yeah,
All right,
mhm,
so your mom is Chinese.
and I'm British.
Where does the Jamaican side come from?
Well, I'm third generation Jamaican born.
Huh?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many generations you have to live in a country to be from there, but
Okay.
third generation Jamaican born. My mother was born there. My grandmother was born there. So,
Wow.
mhm.
Okay. And I imagine you learned food early on,
Well, it was
right?
always, yeah,
Yeah, that was good. Did you learn? Are you fluent in Chinese?
I am not at all. And
Okay.
even if I was, the thing is that my family, they fled in communist takeover and my grandfather did in China also. And so, he actually lost a child there and everything. So he became an indentured servant to get out of China. And that's, I don't even know this. I don't even think he knew that he was going to Jamaica. They were just like, okay, we're going over here. I don't know.
Wow.
He's been dead for a long time. But yeah, I was, it's interesting how that is because Chinese people do not talk about emotions at all. Like it's like neither did the British. So I just did not grow up in a very emotional household at all. I mean, there were many redeeming qualities, but one of them was not emotional intelligence at all. It was all very like this is how it should be, and everything's very principled and honorable and organized and stuff like that.
Then
But
how did your parents meet?
um, oh, that's just your run of the mill thing where my mom. So little church history. So Vatican II happened, and then people realized that they did not have to basically say a rosary to get into heaven. And, we're not afraid of eternal damnation at any moment. They learned about grace in a different way. And so my mom, who was in the convent, she was like, oh, seriously? Okay, well, then peace out. So she got excused from being a nun after 11 years. And she left the convent, and then she met my dad, and a few months later he was actually dating her friend, and then they got married 6 months later.
And you have a sister.
I do.
Do both of you carry how much of the Chinese and Jamaican and British just physical features or do you guys look alike?
um yeah, I think we look alike. I look the least Asian, and my sister looks, her hair's darker and straighter. um
Interesting.
and then my brother, he looks the most Asian of all of us, and I don't know why that is, but
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
don't. It's interesting when we get together with my family, which is like all over the United States too, in addition to Toronto, and it just kind of goes down like my oldest uncle, he had an arranged marriage, and and they're super Chinese. They don't even really speak very much English. Um, and their kids look very, very Chinese because they're like 100% Chinese, and they're, doctors and stuff like that. And then, depending on who married who, then some of them look less Asian, and more Asian. And some of them are in Ohio and Kentucky. Then we have somebody that converted to Mormon. So they've got people in Utah. And so, but we all became, we love America. We're just a family that fled. And when I did some family tree stuff, like I couldn't believe it that, me, myself, we left, came here. And then my grandfather left there, China, for the same, basically fleeing tyranny, and then from what I could tell, although I haven't verified this, I'm going to, if I can ever get to Europe again with this pandemic, but I'd like to hear about how we came to England with the last name Abraham. And I think that we might have been fleeing tyranny in Eastern Europe, and you know, went to England, and we're like, oh yeah, we're Anglican, uh-huh. And people would
Wow.
say, Michelle, Abraham, are you Jewish? And I'm like, no, we're not Jewish. We're Catholic. And they're like, I don't know, man. It's
I
not
think
very
I
nice.
I think we all have sprinkles of a few things around that 23andMe may never show us or tell us.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't do that stuff, but other relatives of mine do it. So I get a little bit of this and that.
do you have dual citizenship?
I am actually imminently awaiting to get dual citizenship. I'm not an American citizen. I've been a permanent resident alien since 1977.
Really?
Yep. And I started my citizenship application in May 2020, and I'm still waiting.
All right. Well, if you need help on the test, don't ask any of us folks or many of us folks born in the US because I don't think we could pass that test.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about it. I will see. I mean, I figure it's got to be doable. It's got to be easier than Duke, right? So,
I would think so, yes. And by the way, congratulations on getting an MBA from Duke.
well,
Uh,
it's an MBA, but yeah,
or Master of Theology.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Are your kids are American citizens though, right?
Yep.
Okay. What have they learned from you with your coaching and the way you work with folks, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially? What kind of area, which of those areas are they drawn to?
Well, I think one thing is that they all really think about what they're doing. They're sort of naturally um, a little bit skeptical about things, and just, or maybe just not super attached to like, oh, this is me. And, my personality is me, and my roles that people put on me and expectations are like everything. I think they see me help people really change. And so if they don't like something, at least even if they get overwhelmed or stressed out, they kind of in the back of their mind, they know like I could probably just make a different choice. Like my son, who's actually my oldest one, who's on the spectrum, and he was super overwhelmed last semester, or not the semester before, and with COVID and all that, and UNCW did not do a very good job handling that stuff. He had very little support, and he was totally overwhelmed. And I said to him, Trey, how about you just quit? I mean, we could just quit. I mean, you could just quit, and then you could just do something else or start over again. And he's like, Mom, stop saying that. And I'm like, but literally you can, like you always have choices. I'm not going to love you less. You're not going to be like a less of a human being if you take off a semester, or you withdraw. It's like, I think people make a really big deal out of these certain things that people have to do at a certain time. And being in youth ministry and stuff, I've seen people want to go to UNC Chapel Hill. That is very hard to get into UNC Chapel Hill. If you go to freaking anywhere in the state for a semester or two, you can go there.
Mm.
I mean, I know so many people, they got the thing on the wall that says UNC Chapel Hill. They didn't get in there. They didn't invent a cure to cancer before they were 18 to get in there, and so there's just a lot of things, like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we think what everybody else is doing, that it looks so good and it's so organized and whatever. And it's like, life is messy, and, you can always make a change. You can always just think about it differently, And if you don't know what change you want to do, then, find someone who has what you want and go talk to them about it. I think that's the value of what you're doing here. Is like stories are everything. And it's not just because it's entertaining. Like, people legitimately learn stuff. Like, don't do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Do this, you know. Um, like me, I would not recommend getting an $80,000 philosophy degree. It's just not a good financial investment. I would not suggest that people do that. But, if you have spiritual questions that are keeping you up at night, then I suggest that you do take a look at them. Because from the people I've talked to, a lot of people I know that are depressed, there's actually I'm going to say, wrong belief about God that is actually at the core of why they're depressed, because they think that God did these things to them. Of course you're going to get mad at somebody that did this super messed up thing. I mean, I lost my husband when I had a 2, 5 year and 7 year old, when I was like basically in ministry. I mean, it's just like, how does this even, and so and I was courageous to look at those questions. I had done that. So I was already in the habit. I had a relationship with my creator so that I could say, I don't like that, or what are you thinking, or why, or something. Not demanding like I have to know now, but like at least I can say that. I don't have to pretend like everything's fine. You
When
know,
yeah, and
I
when
think,
I get to certain moments, whether things are just overwhelming or there's just a lot on the plate, I'm a big fan of just getting a piece of paper out and start writing things down, whether it's a just left side, right side, or keep or go,
yeah,
pros and cons, whatever.
yeah.
Are you a fan of something like that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the like moments of like a turning point in my own life. Was I was graduating from Boston University with philosophy. I didn't know what I was doing, because like, what do you do with a philosophy degree? And I, you know, I was riding on the T at night, and I saw the chapel, and I'd been there for 4 years. I just never even noticed the chapel. And it was really well illuminated. And I was really kind of like doing this soul searching, like, what am I doing next? I don't know. And so I went in the chapel, and I did basically what you're talking about. I just kind of made a column on one side about how I was feeling, and then on the other side, I wrote down how I wanted to feel, and then I noticed that there were some lights on in the basement. Went down there, and I saw a door open, and I just knocked on it, said, "Hey, do you mind, do you have a second to talk to me?" And it turned out it was the dean of the chapel. Like, if I'd wanted an appointment with the guy, I probably couldn't have ever seen him. For like 18 months, he has 15 minutes, but I just went in there,
Yeah.
and he was so pastoral, with me. And he said, Michelle, these are really wonderful questions that you're asking, and this is a very sacred place you're at in your life. And there's a place where people are asking these questions all the time, and it's the church and divinity school. People are, you will be with people that are thinking about these things now, but also you'll be studying these people for the last 4,000 years that have been talking about these things. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was how I decided to go to divinity school, because I was like, what else am I going to do? That sounds like a good idea. Sure. So then I ended up with a $30,000 master's degree, where you're like, again, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this?
I like the clarity when looking at the sheet of paper, and then you can start doodling, you can change, you can tweak it, you can circle it, you can scratch through it, you can draw a line from that word to another word to start thinking, "Oh, those 2 might go together." I've always been a big fan of just writing it down, because then you can look at it. In the analogy I give people, it's like a swatch when you're thinking about repainting your house,
Mhm.
and you just put it up on the wall, and you walk by at 8 in the morning and look at it. How does the light look? Then you
Yeah.
walk by at 4 in the afternoon, look at it. How does the light look? You just keep looking at it, and eventually you're gonna go, "Oh, that's it," or,
Yeah.
"Nope, let's move on to another."
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think it that reminds me of something that is a really great tool that I've learned, is like about visualizing. So, and it helps with, and a lot of people have anxiety now. I think it just went up. Like, there's more people suffering from anxiety than depression. And so, one of the ways that you can prepare yourself for a situation that you might have anxiety about is to just kind of visualize specifically, what is it going to be like. So, let's say I'm coming on here. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get on with Mike. I don't know if it's going to be Zoom or it's going to be on a call, but then he's going to ask me questions, and then I'm going to, I'll have a notebook with me in case I, want to write something down, and just kind of visualize exactly how it's going to be, and visualize, and I said that to you before we started, we're going to have fun. You know, I was setting the intention that we're going to have fun, you know, and setting the intention, like, it's going to be great. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to have a good time. And I'm going to be, authentic and vulnerable. And, you're going to be good at what you do, and we'll just have fun. And maybe somebody will learn something, and probably it'll be me and you. Um, but I think, what do we want? What's my intention for this, and kind of visualizing how it could go. But there is a book called, you may have read it. It's very old school language. It's actually kind of funny, but the Dale Carnegie book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living,
Okay.
is a really good book. And basically, it just says, like, just imagine the worst case scenario. Like, so for this, it'd be like, okay, I totally screwed up. I cursed and dropped the F-bomb or whatever. You said something I totally offended, like, political incorrectness, or I don't know, whatever it was. And nobody ever wants to talk to me again. Like, okay, I can live through that. Like, okay, well then after that, it's fine. If you imagine the worst case scenario and you can live with it, then you don't really have to worry about being in fear.
I agree. My brother has been a serial small business owner since about 1995. And when he looks at buying a business or starting one, that's the very first question he asked himself. If all of this went wrong tomorrow, what's the worst that would happen to me?
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful place to start. My mind doesn't go there, but it has over the years as I've worked with him. We've had a couple businesses together, but it's a wonderful place to start, and kind of takes the pressure off when you go, oh, that's it. Oh, okay. I can live
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Like, if you just bombed it,
Yeah.
or, somebody just whatever. And then you're like, okay, that would be awkward. I wouldn't like it. In fact, one time I'm also a real estate investor, and I was doing the biggest flip I've ever done on a house. And then my husband at the time lost his job, and so whatever, a bunch of stuff happened. And so basically my bills were doubled and my income was in half. And it was just staying that way for months. And it was just really not what I wanted to be happening. And I kept on feeling like, oh, this is what it feels like before I freak out. I don't know what the freaking out's going to look like, but this is what it would feel like before I freaked out. And then I had this dream. And in the dream, I lost everything. I lost all my real estate. My network marketing company went out of business. I lost my house, everything. And in my dream, I just got my kids in the car and drove to my mom's house and started over, and got a job waiting on tables, just like I had at the beginning of my, career. And when I woke up, I was like, well, it's just money.
Mm,
Um, and it just gave me this total peace.
good. Are there Chinese and Jamaican names for grandma and grandfather?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, they don't have a China. Yeah. They call my mom Japo, which is maternal grandmother.
oh,
And then,
cool.
yeah. And then they call my late husband's parents Bachi and Jaji, which is Yiddish, which is Polish, whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. I like
Hmm.
the different names. Love the heritage connection and to carry that through. But it's again, love these stories of stuff I've never lived. Those are the stories that intrigue me the most. But Michelle, thanks for coming on today. Had a blast. Some good knowledge for folks. We've been putting your phone number up there. So if you want to get in touch with Michelle to answer any questions, I know she'll be able to help you. We've been putting that up there. And
Great.
also the email is michelle@prosperitypartner.com. That's
Great.
Michelle with one L. How many times in your life have you had to spell it that way to
Every
people?
single time. Yeah.
Did your
Just
mom and dad ever tell you why they didn't put the second L in there?
was on some weird French kick. And I was like, Mom, am I French? No, because my middle name's Fleur, which is flower.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Like, I just like French. I was like, okay. So Michelle Fleur.
I
There you
like
have it.
that. I'll have to remember that next time when we're together. I'm like, so the flower, what do you think? So,
Yeah.
I like
Like,
that. I like that. So, anyways, thanks for coming on today. Good luck with everything. And
thank
we
you.
will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.